Actually, I think it's a lot of time, and we have some very good foundation. We have, as an example, the tax bill that we passed. We gave you the biggest cut in taxes in the history of the country, bigger than the Reagan cuts, and all of that stuff. It's going to be very hard for them to give it up. I can't imagine politically that it would be possible. It would be a disaster for the country if that could lead to a depression, frankly, if they gave that up. But we have a great foundation to build on, and we're going to have things. So we're going to have a lot of companies coming in very fast. And I know your area does have some problems, incredibly. People don't talk about that, but they do. But most areas have problems because the policies of this administration, they don't even have a policy. They're like, they don't have a policy. There's nothing. They don't have anything. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, think of it. They want to go to all electric cars, the whole thing electric. They need $9 trillion, I read the other day, to do a charging station, Max. He owns the gasoline stuff, and to do a charging station. And they built 8 charging stations up in the Midwest someplace. They spent $9 billion. I kid you not. You know what that is? A charging station is like a gas pump. It's the equivalent of a gas pump. They spent $9 billion for 8 charging stations. So if you look at it that way, if you did the whole country, you would have spent $30 trillion, okay? Which is more than the country, which is every country in the world. It's so out of control. It's so horrible. And they don't want to change. The truckers came in to see me. The truckers are great. They have trucks that can go from New York to Los Angeles on a tank of diesel fuel. And they came in almost crying. They said, these people are crazy. They want us to go to electric trucks. And the problem is they don't go far. They'd have to stop 6 times. I mean, you talk about no deliveries. They have to stop 6 times. They're 2.5 times heavier than gasoline or diesel. So the truck would weigh 2.5. I said, well, that could be a problem, right? Yes, you'd have to rebuild every bridge in the United States because they can't hear. What do you think of that, Carlos? So now if you're a child, you'd say, okay, that doesn't work. You know, those 2 things, right? It doesn't go far. And the third thing is they'd have to use half of the capacity for the battery because the battery takes up tremendous amounts of room, much more than a load of diesel fuel, which is, you know, something. And by the way, even little things, I'll give you little boring facts. As the truck goes, the fuel gets lighter, the battery stays the same weight. So it's massively heavy, and it takes up about 50% of the area that you're supposed to use to transport it. So it doesn't work. So normally what you do is say, all right, after about, would you say 3 minutes, Carlos? 3 minutes, you'd say, okay, let's get on to the next. That doesn't work. They say, we don't care. We want you to do it. And these truckers are beside themselves. They're going to be forced to do electric trucks. They're not going to work. Maybe someday in the future, I don't know, maybe someday, but it's possible it'll never work because it's so crazy. But think of it, just the weight or the distance, they don't go far. The cost is astronomical. And these guys are going to be all put out of business. You're not going to have any truckers. And they say, we don't care. Build it. That's what we want. We want all electric trucks soon. Like, you give them such a short period of time. These are big. One gentleman had 29,000 trucks. And he said to me, you know, I've been buying trucks for 50 years, and every damn year they got better and bigger and stronger and more efficient. Every single year. And then we build the cabs. We build apartments at the back of those trucks. And I'll tell you, sir, I know you like luxury. You'd be proud to live in one of those trucks. See, I don't know about that. I might be. Who knows? Who knows? And I think he meant it, actually. But he said, you'd be proud, you know, in the cab they built like the place for them to sleep and stay. He said, some of those things are so beautiful. But he said, every year for 50 years it got better. And if we had to go to electric, we would go back more than 50. We'd go back to 60 years. It would be worse than the truck from 50 years ago. Doesn't work. So what you say is it doesn't work. But they want to force it down your throat. Look at the case of Los Angeles and California. They have brownouts and blackouts all the time, and they want to go all electric. They don't have enough electric for themselves. They want to go all electric with one of the worst governors. And by the way, she, as the Attorney General, helped destroy the state of California, and she destroyed probably, that's Harris. She destroyed probably the best, maybe the best city in the world. I mean, San Francisco was one of the greatest cities. A friend of mine, Bob Tisch, used to say that's the best city that he's ever been. He was in many cities, the great Bob Tisch. And he said San Francisco was the best city in the United States. And now it's horrible. You know, I own property there, and it's very costly every time I do this, but I don't care because this is a much higher calling. I hurt the value of my property tremendously when I say this, but it's almost unlivable now with the crime and all of the things that are happening. And the only thing I would disagree with you on is that the economy is very important. I actually think that the biggest thing is the border, because the border is destroying our country. It's really destroying. I think the economy is bad, but I think and it's made really bad by the horrible inflation that was caused. The inflation is really the biggest problem. But I really believe that even the inflation, and that's a country destroyer, it's a country buster, they call it, inflation. But I really think that the biggest problem this country has is what they've allowed to happen to us on the border. Right. They've allowed our country to be destroyed. They're allowing thousands of murderers and drug dealers and terrorists and people from mental institutions. They're emptying out their jails into our country. They're emptying out their jails. And by the way, their crime rates all over the world are going down. They have many people now coming from the Congo in Africa. It's not just... You think about South America, they're emptying out their jails in the Congo, and they're delivering them to the border, and they're saying, congratulations, here's America. And we have 21 million people at least over the last little while. And if they got in, they're going to have open borders 100%, just like they tried to trick everybody. They said they tried to tighten it up a little bit just to make, because they have an election coming up. It didn't work much. But they forgot to tell you that they continue to fly big, beautiful Boeing jets right over the border with hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants landing in the Midwest and other places. They forgot to stop those planes coming in. They thought they were going to put a little bit of a show on the border and they could show something. They didn't do it. I think it's the single biggest problem because our country is loaded up right now with murderers, and with people and seriously ill people from mental institutions, and those mental institutions are empty, and those jails are becoming empty, and countries are down 60, 70, and 80% in crime, and we're going through the roof with crime. When she said, no, the migrants don't commit crime. These migrants are, the criminals that they're allowing in, are tougher than any criminal there is. The only good thing about it is they make our criminals look like nice people. These are ruthless, horrible people. I'd like to ask Max to say a few words because he gets it from the standpoint of where he was born. He grew up in a system, and I've seen him speak very beautifully on this subject of what's happening to our country.